Take the enemy from the rear and drive them to Masséna. We'll chop them to pieces.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be counting down our picks for those humans who left an undeniably huge mark on history.
Only 25 years old, Newton had made some of the most stunning breakthroughs in the history of science.
Number 10. Sun Yat-sen.
Dr. Sun Yat-sen occupies a unique historical position and has been widely revered in the Greater China region.
One of modern China's founding fathers was Sun Yat-sen. Born in Guangdong, he spent his life fighting for democracy. This eventually led to the overthrow of the Qing dynasty in 1911, which Sun is credited for despite being in Colorado. For the first time in thousands of years, China was free from imperial rule. Sun Yat-sen then formed a provisional government and became China's first and last democratically elected president. It didn't last long, unfortunately, with a warlord taking over, leading to decades of civil war. Despite its failure, without his efforts, China might still be a dynasty. Fascinatingly, both governments in Taipei and Beijing consider him a hero, an incredible feat.
And here is the Sun Yat-sen Mausoleum, where the great frontrunner of China's democratic revolution rests.
Number 9. Rosa Parks.
But we hope to achieve equal rights as any human being deserves.
One of the greatest heroes of the civil rights movement was Rosa Parks. In 1955, while riding a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, the driver demanded she give up her seat. At the time, Alabama had strict rules about racial segregation called Jim Crow laws.
Racial discrimination and disempowerment, enforced under Jim Crow legislation, left a deep impression on Parks throughout her youth.
This meant that legally, Parks had to give up her seat for white passengers. Her refusal got her arrested, which motivated the public to boycott local buses.
The NAACP recognized this as a prime opportunity for protest.
A year later, segregation on buses was abolished in Montgomery. Now she's become an inspirational figure globally, earning a reputation as the mother of the civil rights movement.
Parks received countless accolades, highlighted by the Presidential Medal of Freedom and Congressional Gold Medal.
Number 8. Martin Luther.
Initially, Martin Luther was only calling for a renewal of the Church and its faith. But the Pope and the Emperor saw him as a threat, and he was demonized by both.
The Protestant Reformation was one of the largest splits in religious history. It was primarily triggered by Martin Luther due to his disagreements with the Catholic Church. At the time, you could pay the Pope for forgiveness of sins, a practice called indulgences.
Luther was convinced that believers were being duped and that their salvation was in jeopardy. He believed the indulgences were lulling people into a false sense of security.
Luther instead believed the Bible was the ultimate authority, not the Pope or his institution. Catholicism was famously challenged when Luther publicized his 95 Theses in 1517, prompting the Pope to excommunicate him. This religious divide resulted in centuries of conflict, causing immense death and suffering across Europe.
A man branded a heretic by the Church, celebrated like the Messiah in the German city of Worms.
Now, there are millions of Protestants worldwide, making it Christianity's second most popular denomination. Number 7. Alexander Fleming.
What he was fascinated by was the hidden micro-world that lies beyond our vision.
Have you ever accidentally stumbled upon a revolutionary medicine? This is what happened to Alexander Fleming in 1928. It's since been labeled the single greatest victory ever achieved over disease. It was discovered after Fleming botched an experiment. One of his cultures became contaminated accidentally, which caused mold to grow. This mold turned out to be an amazingly effective antibiotic.
Around the mold, there was no Staphylococcus bacteria. What Fleming concludes is that the bacteria has been killed by something produced by the mold.
Now, a minor wound getting infected is no longer a death sentence. By the 1940s, it was being used to treat millions of people.
This was a discovery of enormous significance, one that was eventually to win Alexander Fleming the Nobel Prize.
Unfortunately, a lot of bacteria are now becoming immune to penicillin, but modern science is optimistic about solving this soon. Number 6. Leonardo Da Vinci.
Leonardo da Vinci, legendary artist. His genius is universal. It speaks to everybody.
He was also a scientist and inventor.
There was a reason for every decision and every line.
Da Vinci was one of history's most prolific polymaths, which in simple terms means he was remarkably talented. One of his most famous works was the Mona Lisa, now on display in the Louvre.
One masterpiece is the biggest draw of all. Today's reigning queen.
He wasn't just a painter, he was also a sculptor, engineer, architect, and scientist. This made him one of the leading figures of the Renaissance. This was all despite most of his works being left unfinished. Da Vinci also theorized flying machines and armored fighting vehicles centuries before they were a reality. His influence can still be felt today, making him one of the greatest artists to ever live.
The key to Leonardo da Vinci is that he doesn't make a distinction between the beauty of nature that he studies in his science and the beauty of his art.
Number 5. Nelson Mandela.
The undisputed leader of the African National Congress. It's easy to forget that this is the man who endured 27 years in prison at the hands of successive South African governments, which were vilified throughout the world.
In 1994, South Africa held their first election after implementing universal suffrage. This led to Nelson Mandela becoming their first black president.
This year, a new birth will occur.
Decades prior, he had begun fighting against apartheid, an inhumane system of racial segregation. Unfortunately, this got him arrested in 1962, and he spent 27 years in prison. Global pressure got him finally freed in 1990, then elected 4 years later. Now he's remembered as one of democracy's greatest heroes. All across the world, you can find tributes to Mandela. This has made him one of the most celebrated figures in history, which he is more than deserving of.
Now is the time. Let God bless Africa. I thank you.
Number 4. Marie Curie. Only one person in history has won a Nobel Prize in 2 separate scientific fields, which is Marie Curie. Without her, we would know substantially less about radiation.
We are here to tell you that you have fundamentally misunderstood the atom.
Curie was originally from Poland, which inspired the name for polonium, a radioactive element she discovered. She also did monumental research into X-rays, which are now an essential tool in medicine. In the end, she was killed by her own discoveries. Her constant radiation exposure led her to develop aplastic anemia. Now her remains reside in the Pantheon in Paris, alongside huge figures like Voltaire and Victor Hugo.
Curie's revolutionary research laid the groundwork for our understanding of physics and chemistry, blazing trails in oncology, technology, medicine, and nuclear physics, to name a few.
Number 3. Mahatma Gandhi.
On a January morning in 1915, a ship landed in Bombay from South Africa. After 27 years away from India, Mohandas Gandhi was coming home.
Britain's rule over the Indian subcontinent was started by the East India Company, until the Crown realized giving a company control over millions wasn't ideal, so they took over directly. India eventually gained independence in 1947 after years of hard work from figures like Gandhi.
He held peaceful protests, willingly went to prison, and even staged hunger strikes against laws that he felt were unjust.
He achieved this relatively peacefully, promoting non-violent campaigns. This decision worked remarkably well, and also inspired countless activists like Martin Luther King Jr. One of Gandhi's core beliefs was religious pluralism, which promoted the toleration of all faiths. This ultimately led to his death in 1948, when a Hindu nationalist tragically assassinated him.
Despite the divisions in India, Gandhi became a symbol of truth and nonviolence throughout the world.
Number 2. Isaac Newton.
Only 25 years old, Newton had made some of the most stunning breakthroughs in the history of science.
Arguably the greatest physicist who ever lived, in 1687, Newton published the monumental Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy. In it, he provided a remarkable description of gravity.
He was convinced that the force pulling apples down to Earth and keeping the moon in orbit around the Earth were one and the same.
This is still considered one of the most important moments in scientific history. Additionally, he built incredible telescopes, pioneered a theory of color, and invented calculus. Newton is arguably the first modern scientist, employing a refined version of the scientific method. Interestingly, a lot of his best work was done during a plague epidemic. It forced Cambridge University to close, and then Newton became increasingly creative with experiments at home.
Newton died in 1727. He was 84 years old. He was buried among kings and queens in Westminster Abbey, beneath a monument to his scientific achievements.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. Napoleon Bonaparte.
Take the enemy from the rear and drive them to Massena. We'll chop them to pieces.
Imagine being so influential that more than 12 years of wars get named after you. The French Revolution kicked off in 1789, which caused the rest of Europe to declare war on France. During this time, a Corsican commander rose through the military ranks. Eventually, he managed to coup the French Directory, named himself first consul, then later emperor.
Prepare to fire! Fire!
The French people loved Napoleon so much, they didn't complain about him bringing back monarchism. After his defeats in both 1814 and 1815, France became a kingdom again. By that point, Napoleon's huge changes were so ingrained in French society, most couldn't be undone.
I love France too much. All I've desired was its glory.
Were there any particularly influential individuals we forgot to mention? Let us know in the comments.
Mankind has to get out of violence only through nonviolence. Hatred can be overcome only by love.